yesterday morning we were on here going, oh, it's going to be so hard for Joe Schmidt to pick who to play in the second row, or maybe actually just to put on the bench. And now it turns out Quinn Roux is going to be on the bench, because what we didn't know this time yesterday was that the two man of the match performances at the weekend by the Irish second rows, who weren't in the starting 15 at the moment, were fairly futile gestures, because both of them are out. Iain Henderson's out for an indeterminate amount of time, potentially 5 or 6 weeks, with another finger injury, not the same one that he was out with before Christmas. And Tadhg Beirne's out for a minimum of the first 2 games. Yeah,
this kind of supports your idea, though, that the Six Nations should be something that we don't care too much about in the lead up to the World Cup, that actually could we see this as a positive, that what happens if there is a situation where we get completely torn to shreds in a position during the World Cup. Now, the thing is, if everybody is, say if we're 90% fit going into the World Cup, chances are you're not going to have 2 injuries in the same position. It helped that they were in different games. In 2 games that they had to win, and 2 bruising encounters at the weekend, and that's why 2 injuries have cropped up. When you're in the same team, things happen to... It's less of a chance, really, that such a bizarre set of circumstances would actually arise.
I don't know.
I'm not too worried that this is actually going to be something for the future.
I mean, do you not remember the World Cup the last time, in the last game, when we had to win?
Do you not remember how thin our squad was in comparison to how it is now?
I mean,
this is why we have a squad. It's because
it was definitely,
if 2 of our second rows drop, we still have 2 of the best second rows in the world who are willing to start. This makes no material change to our starting team, and of course...
Next one down, Quinn Roux starting, and everybody's like, oh, we suddenly aren't as deep at that position as we thought. Now,
Quinn Roux was a part of the Grand Slam winning team.
How many games did he play?
Grand Slam winning squad, at least. I want to say last 2 games.
Was he on the bench?
On the bench. He was certainly brought into the squad late on, midway through the Six Nations due to injury last year. Whether or not he actually got onto the pitch, I'm pretty sure he did.
Okay, maybe he did. But he played in South Africa when we were on that tour and won our first game in South Africa. And also, I think he went to Australia as well. So Joe Schmidt clearly likes him. But he ain't at the same level as the 2 lads who were just injured, and he ain't at the same level as the guys who are starting at the moment. So I'm just saying that it's not beyond the bounds of possibility that we're suddenly down to, say Tadhg Furlong was to touch wood, wash your mouth out. Say Tadhg Furlong was to get injured, and then Andrew Porter was to get injured. What are we doing then? It's like, okay. So that's an interesting drop off to the point where it's world class, and then it's not world class, not nearly world class yet, but like sustainable, and then I don't know.
But you see, the fact that you're actually pointing that out almost supports the idea that this actually isn't as big a problem as you're trying to make out. Because save one of the... Okay, first of all, we have our first choice pack pretty much at full fitness now, bar Dan Levy, were he to be first choice in his position. With the return of Sean O'Brien, everybody's fit in the back row.
Yeah, but we haven't played a game in the Six Nations yet.
Everybody's fit in the front row. Our first choice locks are fit. Calm down. It's all going to be fine. If a backup lock has to come in the shape of Quinn Roux or Ultan Dillane, who's kind of come in to be 4th choice, it seems, in this situation, then I'm not too worried. They're packing down behind the best front row in Europe, the best front row in the competition, clearly, and in front of the best back row, potentially, in the world. So I'm not worried at all. And let's not forget that lock will be packing down beside either Devon Toner or James Ryan, were one of them to go down. But in the case of replacements, that will be the case. It's going to be fine. Don't worry. Don't worry, we're going to be out. This is why we have such a level of squad depth. Maybe lock isn't as deeply stacked as the back row is.
Is there a case, though, for actually just giving a bunch of players game time now in the big games and seeing how they do?
Oh, okay, so what are you constituting a big game? Like England?
Yeah, England, France, Wales, Scotland away is a big game because it's away and with their World Cup opponents.
I think France is an acceptable level to go after that. I think England are a tad stronger than that. We want to beat England. We want to embarrass England. It would just feel good for the soul. It always does.
I mean, that is indisputably true, right? However, what if we lulled them into a false sense of security by letting them beat us? And we're like, oh, England, you're so good. Oh, you're so amazing. Look at you with all your Brexit and stuff. It's amazing. Oh, and even with all those injuries you have, you still beat us. We're no good. And then we crushed them in the World Cup. Crushed them.
At what stage? Semi-final?
Whatever. Whenever we meet them.
Can't really meet them until the semi-final. And you reckon that it's going to be Wales on that side of the semi-final, I think?
You're not playing along with the...
No, I'm not playing along with it because I think it's a lot of nonsense. I think we're going to be absolutely fine. There's no need to lull anybody into a false sense of security. We need to get used to the idea of being better than everybody else, sure. We're not used to this, are we? The superiority complex which we need to build up.
I mean, it's your innate default position. What are you talking about? Let's have a look at Mike McCarthy's depth chart. So he had Devon Toner, and James Ryan side by side. Are they side by side?
He thought actually Devon Toner might pip James Ryan. If you had to pick one lock.
I mean, Mike, I love you and all, but you're doting. There's no way anybody's ahead of James Ryan in the second row.
As a rugby player, as a talent, as a ball carrier, but when it comes to the pragmatism that is sometimes required late on in Six Nations games as a line-out option, Devon Toner is who you want. After his performances in the November internationals, I don't think that's as ridiculous a take as you're making it out to be.
I think James Ryan is like potentially the greatest player in world rugby over the next 4 years. I think he has that level of greatness within him. And Dev Toner's really good. Just take it back up there, sorry for a second. So Iain Henderson's on 7, Tadhg Beirne's on 6. And, you know, probably I would have had them like an 8 and an 8. But anyway, after that, John Klein was his 5th choice, who is eligible in September 2019. I mean, where would he be now if he was eligible right now? He'd be number 3, right? With the 2 lads injured.
Yes, without question. I think he would definitely. Well, the thing is, when it comes to Joe Schmidt's eye, maybe Quinn Roux would be ahead of him, but I think he'd probably be ahead of Ultan Dillane in the pecking order at the moment. Like we were speaking about Dillane a couple of weeks ago when he got his new contract with Connacht, saying that it's definitely kind of a Six Nations next year or the year after when he potentially might be able to start nailing down a place or just being in the matchday squad regularly. Suddenly that's been accelerated quite a bit, and it tends to happen around the Six Nations every year because given the attrition of the game and it's right after big European matches, there is a window of opportunity for a number of people that we didn't expect to get one, and Dillane might actually be that person. Who knows what's going to happen injury-wise over the next couple of weeks.
Dillane's only 25 as well. You forget that like when he was in the Ireland team a couple of years ago, and he was I thought he was very impactful for somebody coming into the squad and into the team at that stage, and you thought, oh, he's just going to be in the team from now on. And there's obviously just been a slightly more circuitous route to get back to the point where he's going to be considered for it. But like we're sorted at second row. I just do think that it's interesting that these injuries can happen like this, and we haven't gone through an injury crisis yet. But when the injury crisis comes, what are we left with? And have we given enough game time to people? So
this is the injury crisis in that position.
In that position, but like so when it strikes in a bunch of other positions, right? Which it will do, and potentially it might not be the worst thing if it happened over the Six Nations, so we'd actually get to see what it looks like as opposed to it happening in the World Cup just before we're due to face South Africa. But like, I guess this is exactly why they've given Quinn Roux the opportunities they've given him over the past, and they've shown him that they trust him. So when something like this happens, so look, maybe it'll be fine, maybe it doesn't matter.
For me, the injury crisis can only manifest itself if Conor Murray gets injured. That is the one-man injury crisis. That if he goes down, then an Irish game plan.
Well, actually, at the moment,
goes with it.
At the moment, you would definitely say that if he goes down, because the backups at the moment are all injured. Although Cooney's just back, is he?
Yeah,
fine.
Like he played well, obviously, for Ulster at the weekend.
Yeah.
I just think that even if you kind of negate the current situation, it is also the drop-off there that perhaps Carberry has played so well over the last couple of weeks that we're not as worried about that drop-off. You've mentioned Tadhg Furlong as well, another one, obvious one to point out. It is really that holy trinity of Furlong, Sexton and Murray that can hurt us the most. I just think Murray's kind of top of that list at the moment.